Well, good morning. And I am the teacher for today. And whether that's good or bad, I haven't been up here for a while. Oh, I'm going to answer my own question. It's good. So I'm covering a lesson here that has to do with Christian teaching, and it covers 5-6 days, and there's about 4 or 5 stories out of the Bible that it covers. And the author of the lesson, they write the questions, and we'll go over them. And before we start, I will say a prayer. And if you bow your heads. Dear Jesus, thank you for this day that we can come to church. It's really nice out. Thank you for that. Please go with us. Amen. Before I dive into the lesson, I said a few things about it, and hopefully I'm talking loud enough. And there's always the buzzing sound, and but if you can hear me all right, I'm not going to ask you to move forward. But this is a big room, so this is the first time I've ever talked to a room this size. So I'm not going to preach up here today. I am not. I have looked at this lesson. I've seen the stories. They're in your Bible, and the questions been put here by the author. So yes, I'm not going to. I have my own thoughts and ideas about some of these questions, but it's a challenge, I think, for anybody that puts this lesson together. I don't know if that I could. I think there's like 4 or 5 people that go together to do this, and you think of all the years that I've come to church, maybe your own selves. Yes, it's a challenge to come up with something every week. So and what I want to do is on Saturday, I at least read a couple paragraphs here, just to set the tone, and I'm not going to read this whole thing, okay? But let's just start with that, because apparently I got 50 minutes, or we have 50 minutes. So if you can look on page, I don't know what page yours is, but we're on the Saturday portion. And the verse comes from Mark 10:52. Then Jesus said to him, "Go your way, your faith has made you well." And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. Who among us has never been ashamed of himself or herself? Who among us hasn't done things that pain us to think about, and that we would recoil in horror at the thought of others knowing? Most likely, we've all been there, haven't we? Question mark. Imagine then what it was like to be Adam and Eve after they ate fruit from the forbidden tree, or when Jacob tricked his father into favoring him over his elder brother and then had to run away from his brother's anger. How did he sleep at night? And imagine being the woman caught in adultery in the very act, John 8:4. David had been there too. In Psalms 32 was his poignant expression and confession of what it had been like. Of course, that's one reason the gospel is universal, and Christ's death was for all humanity. Whatever our differences, surely one thing unites us: our general sinfulness. Hence, true Christian education must be about pointing us to the only solution for our rather dismal state. This week we'll look at our only solution, our master teacher. Obviously today we're not going to reflect on how bad of people we are, but if the author points out that we're all in the same boat, okay, and when they mention that you would want somebody to know something that you've done or whatever, I thought about that, and then you actually kind of have to defend yourself, because I'm going to read that again. It said, who among us has never been ashamed of himself or herself? Okay, I said it again, and I read it again. And You think about, have you ever been ashamed of yourself? Oh yeah, you don't need to answer. I'll answer for it. You. But there's been times where you could have done better. I'm being reflectory. There's times that you could have done better, or I could have done better. And the author of this lesson points out that we're all in the same boat. And if you, in bringing that up, you think to yourself, well, I'm call it guilt, but then you want to defend yourself a little bit. I might be all in the same boat, but am I as bad as the next person? But it don't matter. You're all in the same boat, or we all are. I am. Everybody is in this earth. And at the very end here, it states that from that we learn from the Bible or whatever, or the things that Christ wants to teach us. Okay, just go to Sundays, please. There's like 3 stories in this whole thing, 3 stories in this lesson. And they wanted to start with Adam and Eve. Okay? On Sunday, it's called Instead of Hiding. And so you're supposed to read Genesis 3, 1 through 11. Today, if we end up looking at a few texts, I hope you know if I read in part of this lesson, I'm reading some of the text. So, in reading Genesis 3, 1 through 11, we're talking about when Adam and Eve sinned, when they're in the garden. Why would God have asked Adam, where are you? And this was, for those of you that haven't read Genesis 3, 1 through 11, this morning or yesterday, it's after they partook of the fruit, and they weren't supposed to, and they seen their nakedness, and they felt guilty, and God, He came down from heaven to the garden, and He always came down to talk to them. And that's the question here. God was walking through the garden, and Adam and Eve were hiding, and God said, where are you? And this is where we start our lesson.
Kevin?
Yeah.
I think it was a very slight chastisement. I think He was saying in a very kind way, what in the world do you think you're doing?
Okay.
Pointing out that you can't hide from me.
To me, it seems like a simple question because a lot of parents ask the same question. And I was talking to a guy here the other day. He was talking about traffic violations. And he was saying that the officer asked this question, do you know why I stopped you? And to me it seems like a cheap bit of psychology because now you're supposed to be engaged in trying to find a solution for bad behavior on your part, but or maybe it's just a nice way of talking in this country, but again, God was asking Adam, well, where are you? Which sort of is kind of like that traffic violation thing of, well, do you know why I stopped you? Do you know why I want to talk to you? And of course, in God always showed up and talked to him. So to me, it seemed like God was starting to, again, this lesson is trying to tie in Christian teaching. And I'm not going to look at every detail here, but there's supposed to be a purpose here about Christian teaching. And it's being suggestive here that God was not showing up to straighten Adam out. He wasn't. And He didn't show up to make him feel small about himself. He said, well, where are you? Where are you? Aaron says, "How strange that God would ask Adam, 'Where are you?' God certainly knew where he was. Perhaps the Lord asked the question to help Adam and Eve realize just what they were doing, hiding, as a result of what they had done. That is, he was helping them see the sad results of their actions." In this next part, Romans 5:11 through 19, where Paul many times directly links what Adam did in Eden with what Jesus did on the cross. What should this tell us about how Jesus came to undo what Adam did? I'm going to actually look that one up. There was many verses there. I felt the last verse in that from Romans 5:11 through 19. Okay, chapter 5, verse 19. I felt that verse 19 summed it up. "For as by one man's disobedience many were made sinners, so by the obedience of one shall many be made righteous." So the obedience of which one? Christ, yes. Without reading 11 through 19, what's your thoughts? Why did Paul feel that he had to show that there was a link between the two? Was it universal? Or was it just Paul putting a good spin on this? So,
I think it's universal. That Adam and Eve sinned caused downfall in humanity. One person did it, and one person is going to correct it.
but sometimes I've heard sermons, and well, not just sermons or reading stuff, that there's this might be wrong to say it this way, but I've heard almost the fact that there's a mystical relationship between Adam's persona and Christ. And I've always thought to myself, what are you trying to say? I understand that both of them are human beings, and Adam was essentially perfect, and Christ was perfect. Both of them hit earth being perfect. And after that, who would say that they had anything to do, that they could have, they're their own persons. They probably like different food, but I've heard, again, I use the word mystical relationship, that Adam is the perfect Jesus, and Jesus was what Adam would be.
Sin entered the world, came into the world because of Adam and Eve, but Jesus is the one that can take it away.
Jesus came to pay the penalty for the sin that Adam committed.
That Adam did, yes. And so I understand at that point, Adam's not like Jesus. At that point, Adam had failed. And again, the mechanics of it, I understand completely. The mechanics of it is Jesus had to fix that problem.
We look at the first Adam,
You said, just as you say, first Adam?
the first Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
if they would have lived in obedience to God, sin wouldn't have happened. The second Adam, Christ, lived in perfect obedience to give life to everybody else, because he showed that obedience can be, that God was reasonable.
Where do you reference it as the second Adam?
Christ.
Okay.
That's that relationship between the two Adams. The
Okay.
first Adam failed in his mission of living obedience. The second Adam, Christ, succeeded in his mission of living obedience.
And again, I can see the mechanics there. and in the way you're explaining, but if somebody had walked in here today and just heard a clippet of us saying the second Adam, somebody would say, all right, I need more background here. You know, growing up, I heard the second Adam, and I always wondered, was there any deeper meaning here than just what we just said? You know, rather than me stating it again. But I see the mechanics there. I totally see it. But it made me stop and think about two human beings on the face of this earth, and Adam was the closest thing to what Jesus was, Jesus' full life on earth. But Adam was the closest thing until he ate that fruit. He made a mistake. And I know that's a side note here, but I mean, we're talking about the lesson. I just thought I'd bring that up. It makes you wonder about the two people. It does. So, but I do see that Paul was trying to point out that Jesus was the second Adam. He was going to be the one that made everything right for the rest of us. And again, Adam, he being the first person here, him and his wife, they were essentially, if things had worked out, they were going to have lots of kids. There was going to be lots of people on this earth. And there wasn't going to be any sin. That was the program. It was supposed to be perfect. And of course, we live in a world where we know it never turned out that way. But it was supposed to be that way. And here at the bottom, and this comes back to the thoughts on Christian education. Whatever else Christian education entails, why must it entail, even emphasize, the fact that our natural state is to hide from God and then point us to Jesus as the solution? I'm glad you guys are talking at this point. I did really think hard about these questions. I do understand that our natural state is to hide. Okay? I do know that's the natural state. In fact, sometimes I work in a shop and my fingers get grease underneath your fingernails. And there's all kinds of tricks to get that out. Usually a brush works good. But if you want, you can take a bar of soap and you can claw it. So it works that soap underneath those fingernails. You just claw that soap in there, and then you got to try to work it. It's best to have a brush. But if you don't have time to do that, and you go to town and you go up to pay the cashier person, you can do that with your hands like this, because it looks terrible. I know it does. But if I see somebody like that, I know they work. They work. There's nothing wrong with that. But do I naturally hide those? Yeah, I do. Am I sinning? No, I'm not sinning. But it's the natural state of why do you need to see that? That's my point. Why do you need to see that? So our natural state is to hide. They say right here, hide from God. And we know we can't. I think anybody that comes to church knows that you can't. But in your mind, you think you can. So.
Well, at least we want to hide our sins from other people.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't blame nobody for that. Do you? Well, I think sometimes you blame somebody for that if you think they're trying to, well, I'm going to say financially get ahead by not, well,
What does God say? God says to share our sins with the others and forgive each other.
okay? No?
So we're not supposed to hide our sins from our others.
No? Well, they're not. But the thing is I think from an honest perspective, if you just come out clean and say, yeah, I did this, I don't want to do it again. A side note, because we're on this natural state, I know that, not that I ever attended a church as such, but I don't know if it was Hollywood movies suggested there was other churches that would like the parishioners to talk about their sins. Again, it could have been just Hollywood movies, because I never went to a church like that. I know this one wasn't like that, but I always thought that maybe it's better for the natural state to hold on instead of somebody wanting to share everything, because there's some information you don't want to know. Because the thing is then you feel, then you what do you call it? You have ill feelings against the next person. I don't want to have ill feelings. I'm like, I'm sure.
Why would you have ill feelings if you forgave that person?
Because you wonder, trouble's up ahead. And the thing is I'm not being judgmental, but the thing is you wonder, oh boy, who's going to rock the boat next? Not because you're feeling like, oh, I'm better than you, but rocking the boat rocks the boat. And it could be little things. So, I mean, I look at it that way. But the natural state, again, that's a side note, but the natural state is for a person to hide. And again, I used my fingernail thing. It is what it, okay, but the next point is here is the author says that that's our natural state, but actually it's natural for us to do that, and then it points us to Jesus as a solution. So what do you think the author in this lesson is trying to say? That the natural state is to feel like to hide, but ultimately it ends up in being, points us to Jesus. Is it guilt? Is that what they're trying to say here? Is that ultimately you're tired of the guilt and you decide, hey, I got to get this monkey off my back?
Isn't that the whole point, is to give all your sins to Jesus? Get the guilt off.
That's the closest I could come to answering that question there. That it ultimately points us to trying to find a solution. And then the solution is Jesus. And I can see that, if I'm answering my own question here, is that, I seen this movie, and again, you all don't, your eyes roll back in your heads, don't do that, because all books, most movies are from books, okay? And if I would think that any story I'm going to tell you here about some movie, it's been done in the Bible already, okay? Most of the material is in the Bible. But this was, the short of it is that it was a movie about the civil rights movement during the 1950s and 60s in the United States. And there was two people on both sides of it, and they were working this out, and one person looked at the other and said, and there was a lot of anger here on both sides, these two parties, and one person said, aren't you tired? And it was two ladies. And one lady said to the other lady, said, aren't you tired? And they had been fighting about, those issues at the time, the civil rights issues, but you knew the issues. And these are two different, on both sides of it. And the one said, aren't you tired? And I thought, this show, what it brought in perspective is this person that actually said that was probably on the receiving end of a lot of abuse. So as if you had watched it yourself, you would have thought, why are you saying it that way? This person is being mean to you, just doing it. But this one lady said, aren't you tired? Can't we get past this? And what they were projecting here is that this whole thing come down to being mean to each other. And this person was trying to say, I can be mean back. That's what this lady was saying. I can go toe for toe and tit for tat. But I'm tired. I'm just tired. And then she said, aren't you tired? And so back to this natural state and hiding things and such like that. I think the Christian religion is the only, well, I wouldn't say the only religion, but it gets that monkey off your back. It does. Because when you finally get to the point that, yeah, I'm tired. Well, how do you get past all those mean things you did? Well, forgiveness. Yeah. And so that's how I'm answering this question, is that when people finally get tired of their natural state, they want to move past it. They're told that, hey, you don't have to feel guilty. If you want to move past it, if you want to tell somebody you're sorry, or if time's gone by and you can't, if you can't fix something, that you were embarrassed about or ashamed, back to Saturday's lesson, you can move past it. So I seen, doesn't matter, it was a script, could have been a book, but this one, it was a priest or a pastor asked this man that was in his 90s, he said, so do you have regrets about what you did? And actually it was regrets about what you did during the war. And it was, I think it was the Korean War, So this was reflecting on a time and age of something that would have happened in the last 10, 15 years. And this 90-year-old guy said, I don't have regrets about what I did. And it took the pastor or priest, like, okay, so what, and so the 92-year-old guy said, what I have regrets about is what I didn't do. Okay, so you don't get a chance to go back and say sorry or such like that, but the Christian religion says that slate can be clean. You might have regrets about what you didn't do, but even Jesus says to tell you it's all right. And so that's how I'm answering this last question here, is that your natural state is to hide something and have regrets. You keep them to yourself, but eventually Jesus and Christianity says that, no, you can move past that. So we're going to turn the page here. I'm talking way too much. I hope this whole setting up here with this microphone, this is not conducive at all. So I was afraid that clock back there was going to roll right on Pat. I could have easily done this less than the last 10 minutes, guys. Okay? Really fast. So this is a very different kind of lesson study. So I'm going to stand up front rather than just look. I'll jump to the question. But they had a guy in here that Jesus healed from his blind. His name was Bartimaeus, and I think that's on Thursday's lesson. And there's one other story. We got plenty of time. These are the stories that I thought was they're all interesting. But Bartimaeus he was given his sight, and I went ahead and looked his name up on the computer. And just to see if there's anything out there that could be a little different. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it's always dangerous, because if you look something up on the computer, you better know that there's going to be a lot of stuff that pages were just slop, okay? But Bartimaeus, they said that he meant something, because Mark, we're supposed to read Mark 8, 31 through 33, it said that Mark felt he was important enough to give his name to put it in the narrative. And I thought about that. We're going to talk in a second about a lady that wanted Jesus to heal her sick daughter, and she wasn't given a name. And this wasn't about women were less than men type of deal, because in the gospel narrative we're given Jesus' friends, Martha and Mary. Okay? But, so I'm on the computer and I read that and I thought, well, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe Mark felt it was important to put Bartimaeus' name in there. And the computer, whoever wrote, felt they had a reason of why Mark did that, but that's why I'm here up front. Why was it important for Mark to decide this guy that was blind deserved to have his name put in the gospel narrative? Any thoughts this morning? The computer had a thought, so, and that's what Thursday's lesson is about.
What Jesus was trying to do there was to get Barnabas to see with his heart, not with his eyes.
Okay. The thing is, the lessons point in, okay, Jesus tried, but wasn't he, when Jesus, am I reading on Thursdays? Notice the great mercy Jesus shows. Now consider how the blind man's desire to see leads to his decision to follow Jesus on the way or road to Jerusalem. Do you think Mark may be drawing a contrast between Bartimaeus and the other disciples? On Thursday's lesson, it talked about the other disciples weren't clearly understanding Jesus' objective, that he was ultimately going to be crucified. And so the author here is suggesting that maybe this blind person that wanted Jesus to heal him to see, that it may reflect on Jesus showing the disciples, you can see through me. But back to Bartimaeus, why do you think that he was important enough to be in the narrative? His name. He's got a name in the Bible. One point here, because I looked on the computer, and I know I've heard this story many times. I'm going to actually turn to Mark 10:46. And all right, Mark 10:46. Now, if I came to church this morning and told you that I got on the computer and I learned the truth about this story, you'd say, fat chance. You've heard it a million times. There's nothing to this story. No secrets. Now, I'm not going to build up to like Revelation here, because the story is simple. But there was a key point that I found on the computer. And it was right from King James Bible, okay? And I learned a little something, just a little something that I'd never seen before. So I'll start reading 46. And they came to Jericho, and as he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great number of people, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the highway side begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Okay, so in verse 47, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Now, when he seen it was Jesus of Nazareth, that's the way the Bible wrote it. He seen it was Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, you were linked to a town, and so it was Jesus of Nazareth. But the computer said that when Bartimaeus decided he was going to talk to Jesus, he didn't just say Jesus. He didn't say Jesus of Nazareth. He didn't say that. He said, Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Now, according to the computer, they say that most people recognize somebody from the town as Jesus of Nazareth. They said that this blind guy, Bartimaeus, whether he was kissing up or he totally believed it, everybody knew that the Messiah was going to come from the house of David. So it said that Bartimaeus, when he said Jesus of Nazareth, he didn't do that. He said, Jesus, again, thou son of David. He just point blank said, the Messiah. I know you. You're the Messiah. And it got me thinking of the storyline. It says right there, the narrative is, the person that wrote Mark says he knew it was Jesus of Nazareth, but he didn't call out, okay, Jesus of Nazareth. So it points out that Bartimaeus knew from the get-go, this is the real guy. This is a real deal. And it said that he, by saying, thou son of David, said that he was right there at that level of, I know you can heal me because I've heard about you. You're from the house of David. And I don't know how people, the Jewish officials, the higher-ups, I'm sure that they picked that apart when somebody said he could be the Messiah. I'm sure they talked about that in their synagogues, and I'm sure somebody would probably said, yeah, but the Messiah's going to come from the house of David. He's not from the house of David. And then I'm sure somebody in that group said, oh yeah, here's the problem. He is. I'm sure somebody said, here's the problem. His dad is Joseph. His lineage comes from David. And I know that the Pharisees and Sadducees did not want this to turn out to be anything close. But apparently it had gotten around. Apparently Bartimaeus, he knew. He's not only from Nazareth. Being from Nazareth meant nothing. What meant something is that you're from the house of David. So, here at the question at the end here, in the middle. What I learned on the computer, I know it might not be a wow factor there, but it was interesting that the common man was picking up on who Jesus was. I mean, Jesus from Nazareth, that he was the Messiah. Question, how does this story shed light on what it means for you to be responsive to the master teacher? I think I'm answering my own question. Any thoughts? Something from the group here. We're talking about Jesus, not some teacher or professor at a university, okay?
But you go back to, Jesus asked James and John the same question, what do you want? They want to see the right hand and left hand of Christ in his kingdom. He didn't grant that to them.
Okay.
He asked this person, what do you want?
Oh yes, I fell in the story.
He said, I want my sight.
Yeah.
Jesus gave that to him. He didn't give James and John necessarily what they wanted, because they wanted more glory, self-exaltation. This guy just wanted to see it.
Oh, I see.
And he recognized, as you say, you're the son of David. You're special. You're not just Jesus of Nazareth. You're special.
To me, I see the story being kind of cut and dry. Bartimaeus knew that this is the guy that can make this happen. And when Jesus asked him, what do you want? I can't think too hard on this one because he wanted his sight. And
I think he saw spiritually who Jesus was. James and John still struggled with seeing Jesus spiritually as the Messiah. They just thought he was going to accept his kingdom and all that stuff. This person saw deeper than just physical things that James and John saw.
but in the end, Bartimaeus, he wanted his sight. And was that the right way to answer? Should Bartimaeus ask for some truer meaning of the universe, or was it all right to ask Jesus, I just need my sight, please?
He had faith in who Jesus was.
Yeah, well, I know that through the gospel, many times Jesus would ask some of these people, okay, what do you want me to do? What would you have me do? I find it interesting that sometimes you can just ask for what you want. And you're not told that, well, you can live without your sight, there's a greater meaning there. No, it's not. Jesus said, yeah, I can do that. And so without any deeper meaning than just, yeah, I can do that. So that's what I get from that. There's other parts of the gospel where there's something more to it. But there wasn't here. He believed he could, he did it. Yes, Bet.
Jesus wanted them to have a new and better life, and that's what he wanted them to ask for.
Okay, yeah. Well, it says it too that Bartimaeus said that he was going to, he decided to follow Jesus. And it didn't sound like to be a disciple, but he said, oh, I'll follow you. Actually, the author said down the road to Jerusalem, that's where he was going. I'm not the best scholar here, but I don't think he ended up being a disciple, but he decided to follow Jesus. It only makes sense to me that, why not? The guy was going to talk about something, Jesus just gave him the sight, and he knows that Jesus travels around, so why not go listen to him? And he did. I'm sure he listened. He didn't just follow just to watch him from a distant hill. I think follow meant listen. So, based on my time, and I get to jump around, in Wednesday's lesson, there's a good story there. Wednesday's lesson. This is about a lady whose daughter was sick. And it comes from Mark 7, 24 through 30. If you guys don't mind, I'm just going to read that real quick. And from thence he rose and went into the borders of Tyre and Sidon, and entered into a house, and would have no man know it, but he could not be hid. For a certain woman, whose young daughter had an unclean spirit, heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. I'm sorry, the lady's daughter had an unclean spirit. I said she was sick. Well, I'm sure that you're not too healthy when that goes on. So the woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter. But Jesus said unto her, let the children first be filled, for it is not meet to take the children's bread and cast it unto the dogs. And she answered and said unto him, yes, Lord, yet the dogs under the table eat of the children's crumbs. And he said unto her, for this saying, go thy way, the devil is gone out of thy daughter. And he never even seen her daughter. And he fixed the problem. This lady, if you read Wednesday's lesson, it talks a lot about, she wasn't Jewish, and she was Gentile, not Jewish. And the Jewish people looked at, in their area, that people that weren't part of their culture or religion were less than best. And I've always wondered, as a group of people living like that, I've always wondered what the Gentiles thought of the Jewish people. Because why would you accept to be beat on like that? Okay? I mean, everybody has some pride. And so if you look at the Gospels, I've always wondered if the Gentiles accepted their lot in life. That, they always look down on us. They always have the perfect religion, everything's great in their life. And because why would they accept that lot in life? Because when the Romans showed up, did the Romans think that they were less than best than Jewish people? Or did the Romans think that they were better? Way better.
Way better.
Way better, okay?
I think a lot of cultures look down on Jewish people. It's not all one way.
Okay,
Look down.
it's not all one way.
No.
But in that group, if you're a Jewish person, it was one way.
Well, if you were around Jerusalem, the Jews outnumbered the
Okay.
Gentiles.
Yeah.
Where he's at now, he's in a Gentile area that doesn't have that many Jews. Tyre
So,
Sidon is not a Jewish
okay.
culture area. It was Gentile.
But the thing is that based on the attitude of the disciples, that in the story, they said, hey,
They still have an attitude.
they had the attitude, they said, she's asking for something, but don't, just hopefully she goes away. So the disciples, they still had all the attitude, even though this wasn't their neighborhood. And so it just throws you wondering exactly when do they know when to lose the attitude, and when do they know that they should just let... Never! Never has. There's still, and the thing is, that's what I'm talking about this morning. How can you live in a group that you feel very special about who you are? Yeah, I'm somebody, and you got the Romans over here. It's like, no, my name's Kevin. And they'll say, no, Kevin, you're not me. But yet, as a group, and your family, your culture, your friends, you can pump yourself up pretty good if in your group. And that's what disciples were doing. They were telling Jesus, hey, you don't have to deal with her. And so she says, yeah, you can help my daughter. And this is when he said, I'll paraphrase, and I looked in the computer, and they'll show you 50 different Bibles that translate this. But the gist of it is he said, and he's talking almost in riddles. He said, yeah, when you got the food for the kids, don't just throw it to the dogs. And what was being said there is I'm meant for the Jewish people. I'm here to get things on track. I'm this thing that was prophesied and that was come generations ago, and I'm filling a plan. I come to the Jewish people, and now you're asking me to do some good over here. He said, that's not my objective. And he's the teacher. I wasn't there in the house. I don't know the conversations they were having. It seems rather mean, but I read somewhere that by saying what he did, he wasn't putting her in her place. He wasn't suggesting that she was a dog. He was saying, based on our cultures, we don't get along. My culture never looks at you guys as being anything, and evidently he knows that, I'm going to say this today, evidently I think he knows that they're tired of it. I think he knows they're tired of it. Because that's what the whole gospel is about. They're tired of it.
So, you look at these stories and you look at Jesus. I mean, he dealt with the Samaritan woman and they talked to the Jews. The people that Jesus talked to were a scum of the earth, a lot of them. You got to look at it. Jesus was love. He didn't care who they were, where they were at. He loved everybody where they were, and he wanted to help them. That's one thing that's hard for us as a whole to understand, that you love everybody. You don't care who they are. You help them where they are anytime they need help. We got to understand that part of it, that love is the common factor in all these stories. Even when Jacob was taking the birthright from his dad to go visit Esau, there was a love factor there. He wanted his brother. We don't correlate that together. He loved that guy that was blind. Jesus loved him, so he healed him. The guy knew who he was, but there's still love involved in all of it.
Well, the lady finished Jesus, I call her a riddle. She finished the riddle and said, yeah, but she says, can't we get some crumbs? And
Those people at that time were thought of as dog. God.
but she said,
Jesus loved her.
she said it with, me, I might be reading a lot in it, but she said it as a human being. Well, then give me some crumbs.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, well, you deserve crumbs. And he didn't say you deserve crumbs. He said you deserve what you ask.
And keep in mind that just because the Jews thought these Gentiles were below them, I don't think the Gentiles thought they were below the Jews. So she was not the scum.
No,
But
yeah.
you look at how he treated her, was that for her result or for the disciples?
Okay.
In Matthew, they said, send her away, she's making us ruckus. And Jesus sort of went along with it. And I think he did it for the disciples' sake, said, ended up telling her, your faith is great, she's cured. And that had to really go against the culture of the disciples, because Gentiles couldn't have faith in God, they were different. And Jesus said, your faith has made you well. Go for God is well. And he's showing his disciples that he's not just for the Jews. He's setting up for his message for all the world, not just the Jews.
Yeah, the dialogue, the way it was going, they may have felt, okay, yeah, you're going to wind her out. And they found out that, no, it don't work that way. And, well, everybody today, I made a promise that I was going to stop at 10 till. And as foolish as I am, I was thinking that was 10:55. Well, it wasn't. We made it all the way easily. So I'm going to end. Thanks for commenting. I know it's hard with having a lesson study where only one guy has the microphone. That doesn't help. So, but we did make it through the material. I'm glad you helped, because I really didn't want to do the whole thing up here in front of the microphone. So, but I want to say a prayer as we move into the next part of the service. Okay. So, if you guys bow your heads, dear Jesus, thanks for this lesson study. Thanks for the stories that from the Bible we went over, and thanks for everything you do for us.